Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. And with the final season of Dragonflight Season 4 launching as of this week, now would be a very good time to get a character caught up before the War Within expansion, or if you wish to experience our characters at their strongest during this farewell season to this expansion. Unlike the previous seasons, Season 4 is making gearing a character much easier than ever, with some brand new avenues of open world activities, updated dungeons, awakened raiding, but also things like a gear vendor and other features that allow you to craft your best in slot character for the final season of this expansion. In today's video, I wanted to go over how to gear up a character for the Season 4 of Dragonflight, whether you're looking to quickly catch up before the next expansion with some entry-level items, or wish to fully optimize your character with some of the best gear available. But right before we get into this lengthy gearing guide for the Season 4 of Dragonflight, most of you guys watching these kind of update videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight patch 10.26, 10.7, Season 4, or any of the future War Within updates. So for this guide, I first want to go over how to catch back up for Season 4, for anybody that's been away from the game for some time, or are just coming back to WoW in preparation for the War Within expansion. But after going over some of the easy way to get entry-level items, I also do want to go over some of the strategies on how to start optimizing your gear and upgrades in order to get some of the best endgame gear sets for the season. First, some of the better ways to get entry-level gear right now is open world content, which is seeing a resurgence in the Season 4. And when it comes to open world activities, you have a couple of options between world quests, public events, as well as world bosses. And right off the bat, world quests are generally easy to do, but I don't think they're really worth your time in Season 4, as the item level upgrades are generally just not that high. Where you should instead spend most of your time in the open world activities trying to catch up is with some of the public events. Big open world activities such as Suffusion Camps, or Dream Surges, or Time Rifts, or better yet this week, Siege of Dragonbane Keep, which awards veteran gear for completing it, which starts out at 480 item level, which is basically equivalent to some of the best item level gear from Season 3. Hunts, while not amazing for gear individually, right now they are awakened and award you with storm caches, which contain additional veteran 480 item level gear. Then we have the Tuskar Feast, which also got veteran gear, but also the Feast quest gave me a gold satchel for 14,000 gold. And I'm not sure exactly how common this amount of gold is. Getting that kind of gold early may help you out when it comes to crafting some of your better items for Season 4. So it may be worth doing, though it's not worth sticking around to the end of the feast because the final boss isn't all that lucrative. Now, the reason these three open world activities right now are lucrative is because they are awakened. Currently, this week, all of Dragonflight's Season 1 content is empowered. This means the Vault of the Incarnates raid is awakened, with bosses providing additional challenge but also much better rewards. But also all of the open world activities from Season 1 are awakened as well. And this will rotate every single week, with next week most likely being Aberrus and all of the Season 2 content with things like Time Rifts, Researchers, as well as Dream Surges. And the same goes for Season 3 content with the Emergency Raid and all of the open world Emerald Dream activities. To see which of the open world activities are currently awakened, you need to head to Valdraken and then pick up your Emissary weekly quest, which is definitely worth doing, as finishing up your weekly quest allows you to gain champion track gear, as well as profession mats and other reagents for crafting items, so it's definitely worth doing on a fresh new character. Besides this, we also have world bosses which also follow the same awakened rotation, and currently any of the proto-dragons within the original Dragon Isle zones that are marked as world bosses all drop champion track gear that are upgraded for the Season 4. But if you're a big fan of group content rather than solo open world content, then I suggest diving into some dungeons in order to gear out your characters. Dungeons went through a few changes for Season 4, with Heroic as well as Mythic 0 and Mythic Plus systems all adjusted a little bit. Basically, heroic dungeons you can still randomly queue for, but the difficulty has been slightly increased to be equivalent to Mythic 0 of last season, meaning that the content and the bosses are a little bit harder, but the gear rewards are much better as well. The same thing goes for Mythic 0 dungeons, which now take place of the original Mythic 10 difficulty, meaning that the bosses as well as the ads, trash bags of these dungeons are a little bit more challenging, but the rewards are much better, with all of the bosses dropping items equivalent to normal raid gear quality, which is a big upgrade, which offers smaller groups of players challenging 5-man content that rewards quite a bit of gear upgrades. I would recommend being around level 470 or so, or 480 before diving into Mythic 0 dungeons, but those are generally going to be some of the easier content that you can do right now. There's 8 dungeons total that are available for Mythic 0, overall filled with 32 bosses, which leaves you with 32 chances of potential gear upgrades. But also let's not forget the mega dungeon of Dawn of the Infinite, which is also available for delving into in Season 4, which provides you additional unique items with some of the better weapons and trinkets that you may actually end up finding useful in endgame progression. To stay around the same content of difficulty to loot ratio, I want to skip over Mythic Pluses briefly and talk about time walking gear upgrades. And currently the Burning Crusade expansion is active for the time walking week for both regions of EU and NA, which allows you to delve into some of the Burning Crusade dungeons as well as a raid, and offers 2 quests for you to complete for additional loot. Between time walking dungeons and raids are definitely far more lucrative when you compare them. Dungeons offer easier to queue into with random players, but finding a proper pug to do the raid is definitely worth your time, as the raid allows you to complete both of the time walking quests that are available, unlocking a random assortment of items, one which is of hero track and the other that is of the champion track, as well as all the potential gear you might be able to gain from each of the individual bosses, which right now this week is Black Temple, with plenty of weapons, armors, trinkets, and other pieces for you to collect. And the best part of getting into time walking raid or dungeon content is that you don't necessarily need good gear to participate, since all of the items scale down to whatever the raid level currently is for that time walking week. In fact, even certain older past expansion items, such as simple trinkets with decent stats, may end up being equivalent to some of the best gear from Dragonflight Season 3, as well as some of the older legendaries, other items with bonus effects, such as the Heart of Azeroth, or really any item that provides you additional amounts of bonus damage. All of those items can actually help you benefit inside of time walking instances. However, the only disadvantage of doing time walking is you don't get flight stones or crests, which may hold you behind from being able to upgrade these items, but if a time walking week is available, it is definitely worth doing for that week. Next, let's go over some of the end game content such as raiding, and raids scale with difficulty but also scale with rewards. Generally, raids end up being the best source for tier gear, as well as some of the more niche and unique trinkets, as well as class weapons. Though as of Season 4, finishing out your tier set is a little bit easier than in the previous tiers. So for Season 4, raids aren't necessarily a requirement, but they're still a fantastic source of gear upgrades. Another reason why you should probably raid in Season 4 is a new currency of bronze bullions, which you obtain by slaying awakened bosses in the Season 4. In the Bronze Dragonflight section of Valdrakken exist 3 new gear vendors, which allow you to trade in 2 bullions for some of the best and most sought after rare items, trinkets, and even weapons from any of the 3 raids of Dragonflight, which is a must unless you're just the luckiest person when it comes to obtaining best in slot gear from raiding content. While no specific item level minimums exist when it comes to joining a normal raid, I would recommend being around item level 485 before you sign up for any groups. But of course, the higher item level the better, but normals is a fantastic way to do some of the easier versions of all the bosses, but also get some decent item level upgrades. As we move on into the heroic difficulties, I would recommend roughly around item level 500 before you sign up for any of the groups, just to have an easier time getting in. At the very beginning of a new season, a lot of the later bosses end up being a bit more difficult, but entry level bosses are generally quite easy and are usually very pug friendly. As for mythic raids, while technically some of the mythic bosses can be pugged, it's a lot more difficult without a pre-made group. But if you really are interested in mythic raiding specifically, at this point I would start looking for some mythic raiding guilds. However, if you are interested in getting some of the better PvE and game gear, I think Mythic Plus system is a fantastic avenue, especially for players that play solo or players that pug most of their end game progression. For Mythic Plus content, we saw mostly a number squish in Season 4, but not necessarily a difficulty squish. With Mythic Zeros taking the place of the original Mythic Plus 10 difficulty, the Mythic Plus system will scale beyond the new Mythic Zero versions. So a plus 2 will actually feel more like the original plus 11 from last season. This new season's plus 5 will actually feel like a plus 15, and a plus 10 will feel like a plus 20, both in difficulty as well as in value of the rewards that all of these difficulties provide. Essentially, when it comes to Mythic Plus, you can push up your keys, develop your score, and eventually work up towards higher end keys where you can start gaining gear from dungeons specifically, get the currencies such as crests in order to upgrade your gear, but also to fill out your great vault. So depending on your goals, if you're looking to gear mostly through crafting gear, the minimum you would need to do is to spam plus 6 dungeons in order to start collecting aspect crests. If you're looking to get some of the better and of dungeon gear, then you're looking to spam plus 7 dungeons for specifically dungeon item farming. But ideally, you should try to work up on your gear to eventually be able to spam plus 8s or at least complete a plus 8 once a week to get some of the best gear from dungeons, aspect crests, but also to fill out your great vault at the end of the week so you always have some kind of an item upgrade waiting for you in the Valdrakken bank. As for PvP gear, PvP is its own system in Dragonflight separate from PvE, which has functioned like this for the last 3 seasons, and in Season 4, this system doesn't change. PvP gear is going to be some of the best gear that you can use for PvP content. You don't need to do any PvE activities to gear for PvP. And if you're just coming back for Season 4, you should start out with a full set of Honor gear, which will at least get you started with a full item set that scales up in PvP situations. Then afterwards you should move on to Conquest gear, which you gain by obtaining Conquest points through most rated PvP activities and daily bonuses. Besides this, we also have open world gear through Bloody tokens, which is an alternative way of gearing yourself for PvP content. For instance, if you're not a fan of arenas or instance battlegrounds and would rather have more chaotic, organic open world interactions against other players, then this is the gear for you. These items can be filled out by collecting Bloody tokens, which can be obtained by participating in PvP world quests, but also from slaying other players out in the open world. You can also obtain the weekly Spark quest from the Epic World PvP gear vendor in order to be able to get a currency to obtain some of the better open world gear that you can use in all forms of PvP content. And besides dungeons, PvP or raids, we also have crafting gear, and crafting is a very viable way to obtain some of the best endgame gear with the best stats for your character. To create a new crafted gear in Season 4, you need to obtain Awakened Sparks. But to create a spark, you first need to obtain 2 splinters of an Awakened Spark. And there's a couple of different ways to obtain splinters. For me, I was able to get one by completing my very first dungeon for the week. And the second one I was able to obtain by finishing out my weekly emissary quest that you obtain in the center of Valdrakken. You combine 2 sparks together as well as a little bit of flight stones in order to create a proper spark. And then you can use that spark as a crafting reagent to create some of the better Season 3 gear and items. Using the work order system, you can turn a spark into just about everything from weapons, armor, trinkets, rings, as well as armors with embellishments which contain additional effects. Or on the other hand, you can craft an item and then add your own embellishment of your choice in order to augment that item further. Further on, you can upgrade those items using crests. For example, if you collect 60 aspect crests, you can have an enchanter craft you an item upgrade token, then slot that token into your crafted item through the Reforge system to make your crafted items be equivalent to some of the best endgame gear available in Season 4. I will admit it's a bit more of an involved process, but it does allow you to create guaranteed items with some of the best in slot stats and allows the player to fully optimize every single one of their pieces while foregoing any RNG systems that are involved with raiding, dungeons, or even PvP gearing progressions. Next, I want to do a quick note on the Great Vault system. The Great Vault system doesn't change for Season 4. Just like in Season 1, 2, and 3, the more endgame activities you participate in, be it dungeons, PvP, or raids, the more chances and potential gear upgrades you may see in your Great Vault. This gear will scale with the difficulty of the dungeons, raid bosses, or by participating in higher rated matches for PvP. And while you may be able to fill out your vault with a lot of options, you may only take one of these items every single week. My best advice here is to do whatever activity that interests you the most, and try to fill out your vault as much as you can for the next few weeks at the beginning of a new season, just because every single one of the vault slots has a chance to become tier set gear, which will allow you to obtain your tier set bonus just a little bit quicker. While on the topic of tier sets, let's also discuss the Revival Catalyst, which has been adjusted for Season 4 to make tier set acquisitions just a little bit easier. The way the Revival Catalyst works is you'll be able to insert a Season 4 item into the Catalyst, and then you'll be able to transform the item into tier set equivalent. Now, only certain pieces can actually obtain tier set bonuses on them. Items such as shoulders, helms, chest, legs, and glove slots can be catalyzed with tier set bonuses, but all the other items such as boots, bracers, belts, and so forth do not get tier set bonuses, but can still be transformed into specific items with very specific appearances and very specific secondary bonuses, which can be useful when trying to obtain all of the pieces of a transmog set, or if you're trying to better optimize the secondary stats of your character. The way that Revival Catalyst will work in Season 4 is every player at the very beginning of this season will gain 1 charge of Catalyst from the get-go, and every week you obtain 1 additional charge of Catalyst. These charges are global, so let's say for the first 8 weeks of a new season, you end up playing your main, which is your warrior, and over 4 weeks you obtain 4 charges of Catalyst. Because these charges are global, all of your old characters, even the ones you haven't hit max level on, all still have maximum 4 charges available. So if let's say you decide to play an old character and level them to maximum level, and you approach the Catalyst 4 weeks into a season, that character will already have 4 charges available to them from the start, which is a fantastic way for your alts to be able to gain some catch-up progression. But my advice on how to maximize the Catalyst for your main character that you're looking to gear is to not use your charge of Catalyst immediately on the first week, unless you can guarantee yourself a full 4 set tier set bonus in the first week. Instead, participate in whatever endgame activities you're interested in, and then open your Great Vault with the next weekly reset, in case you get a tier set reward as part of your weekly vault drop, or you end up obtaining higher item level gear that can then be catalyzed for a much bigger upgrade. And that's gonna be the entire guide on how to gear your character in the Season 4, which was a long video. I tried to condense it as best as possible, but I also wanted each section to be filled with plenty of information to get a new player or an experienced player that played Dragonflight seasons before started and maximizing their output within the final season. If you're looking to play in the War Within and you want to prep a character ahead of time, Season 4 is a great time to get back into the game, especially with the patch 10.2.7 and the remix of Pandari mode coming out in the future, if you're just jonesing for new retail content while awaiting the next World of Warcraft expansion. But as always, I want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope all of you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video, or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.